with her presentation.
Let me tell you why you're here. It is the world of luxury that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
We just want to get our car.
Take the blue key, you go back to the luxury you know. You take the red key, and you'll never look at luxury the same again.
There you go. This is unreal.
No, it's very real. This is what luxury looks like. This is what it feels like. And this is what it sounds like.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma. By the merely stand like hills, my men, in the sons of love,
Use stories in business presentations? Are you kidding? I'm a salesman or a manager. Businessmen use financial data, charts, and PowerPoint slides, not stories. Is this what you're thinking? Then why do some companies now require employees to learn storytelling techniques before considering them for promotion? Why do expensive, multi-day seminars teach executives how to tell stories? In the next 50 minutes, you'll hear several ways to use stories in your business presentations, and you'll learn how to write your own business story. Roxanne Andersen is an Advanced Communicator Silver and a member of Riverside Breakfast Club Toastmasters Club 1348. She's a former English and speech teacher, and she currently coaches and teaches presentation skills. Her specialty is storytelling. Please welcome Roxanne Andersen.
Thank you for all coming today. You just saw the Kia ad that was played in the 2014 Super Bowl. Kia spent $6 million for that one ad. Why would they do that? It's an investment, it tells their story. We're going to come back to what their story is because they are very definitely telling you a different story than they've told you in the past. So that's really good. $6 million on that. There was a Johns Hopkins study that came out, and there was a man who studied over 100 Super Bowl ads, and he tried to predict which ones would go viral. And he did it with a great deal of accuracy. So which ones do you think went viral? How about, and I'm going to take a couple votes here, the ones with scantily clad women. No votes. Usually that one gets at least a few votes. Okay. Ones with a funny prank in them. Okay. Ones with a puppy or a baby. Okay, thank you. The highest one, and this was across the board, the ones that told a complete story. A clear story went viral. You may remember the one with the little boy dressed as Darth Vader, and he's trying to use the Force in order to do different things, and finally he's out trying to start the car using the Force. He's kind of dejected, and Dad takes the remote and starts the car, and he's like, whoa! But it tells a story, and because it's a story, you remember it. Do you know why you remember stories? There is a scientific reason why, actually. At the very back of your brain, there's a little tiny organ that's about that big. It's called the amygdala. And when it is stimulated, emotionally, which stories will do because they incorporate emotions, it starts emitting a neurochemical called dopamine. And there are at least two things that dopamine does. One is it helps you remember. Isn't that funny? Have you ever wondered why you remember stories? And the second thing is it moves you to act. You are more likely to act. And if you think about presentations that you see and somebody's trying to sell you something, whatever it is, and they say it does this, it does this, it does this, here are all the features, blah, 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 it is very easy for you to agree with everything in the whole list and then thank them and walk out the door. But when they engage you emotionally, and I will show you how you can do this with story, you are more likely to buy whatever it is they're selling. So let's go back to the Kia ad. What are the visuals in that ad? What were the things that stuck out to you? What is it that they are communicating? Because Phil pointed out they're telling a story, but it's a different story than they usually tell. When you, let me start with this question. When you think of a Kia, what do you usually think of? What kind of a car is a Kia? Jeep. Okay.
Japanese.
I think it's Korean, but yeah.
Oriental.
But this is an economy car,
Means
right?
fuel and
Yeah.
action.
Did what you saw, was that an economy car?
No.
No, they are trying to change your perception of a Kia, and they were willing to spend $6 million to do it. So what were the images that they showed you? It's comparable to a Jaguar, and they're definitely trying to say that. It feels like luxury.
But not just the car, even with the surroundings of like Belinda said, lavish, the restaurants, the people, the suits. things like
Yes.
that.
The lady and the man look
Everybody
pretty,
looks-
pretty snazzy.
Opera is associated with rich,
High class.
Uh-huh.
Yes, luxury.
Everybody looks at it a different way. It's a, Kia is a beautiful automobile, but I could never drive one because KIA means killed in action.
Oh.
And I'm a veteran and it just turns me off every time I see it.
Okay, that's a whole other session, but they probably should hire these before they chose the moniker. Okay, so Kia is definitely trying to change your perception, and they do it by telling you a story and giving you the visuals of that story that are going to stick in your mind. Okay, so there are any number of things that stories will sell. And we're going to go through a number of them. You've got a handout there, and I'm going to give you some examples, and then we're going to take about a minute after each one for you to write down what it is you sell. Okay, and I just want you to just a couple of words in that area so it will jog your memory when you get home. But the first one is an idea. And I will tell you, as an English major, English majors have known for a very long time that stories sell ideas. The business world is now beginning to catch on. Okay, just saying. How many have read Das Kapital? Have you read Das Kapital?
What's it called?
Das Kapital. It was written by Karl Marx. Look around the room, how those hands are up. One, you are the only person other than Tom Jameson who has read it, if you've read it.
I had to in college.
Yes, and that was why he read it. It was required reading. Das Kapital was written by Karl Marx, and it was a very critical look at capitalist economy. And basically he said, the rich are out to oppress the poor have to work for the rich, but doing so only makes their situation worse. And if they do anything to change their situation, it will be met with violence. And you see how many people read it. Okay. How many of you have read Grapes of Wrath or seen the old Henry Fonda movie? Quite a few more. Let me tell you, for those of you who would like to know, the story of Grapes of Wrath. It's set in the Great Depression, and there was a big drought in the states surrounding Oklahoma. They called it the Dust Bowl. And the farms were devastated, and the farmers were destitute, and they had to do something. And at that time, the entire area started getting flooded with these glossy brochures, and it said, come to California. There is abundant work in California. You can come and pick the fruit. It is hanging trees is so bright, and they put the pretty pictures, and families loaded up in their rickety old cars, and they made the trek to California. And when they got there, they found it had been way oversold. And there were way too many workers for the amount of work. And so they were forced to live in labor camps, and they were starving. And they had to work for the rich, for the orchard growers, in order to make a living, but by doing that, they drove the price of the wages down even further, so it got worse and worse. And they said, we've got to do something, we'll unionize. But whenever they had the union meetings, they would be met with violence and people were killed. Does this sound familiar to anybody? It is exactly what Karl Marx said. But which is a better cell? Which one got read?
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to take about 30 seconds. We're gonna really rip through this. And just in your own life, whether it's your job, whether it's your hobby, whether it is your ministry, whether it is Toastmasters, write down in just a few words in that block right here. What idea do you sell? Okay, it looks a lot like, okay, there's the back that has my picture on it. Don't use that, turn it on to the other side. And I just gave you some examples, grapes of graph, but the box on the right here, you write, what idea do you sell? First thing that comes to your mind. What idea do you sell? Toastmasters is a valuable tool for progressing in your career. That'd be an idea you might want to sell. Frida? Okay. The more specific you are, the easier it will be to come up with a story then. And when you write that idea down, what stories come to your mind? Is there a story that pops into your mind? Just jot that down in about 3, 4, 5 words if something comes to your mind. In the right box. And I am going to just really move through this quickly because I want to get you to the end where you can use the story template. Another thing that stories sell and that they're realizing now is it will sell a service. There was a young woman I met, I call her Marge, she sold reverse mortgages. And she got up and she did her presentation. It was like, this is the process of how it works. These are the numbers of how it works. It'll do you a lot of good when you want to buy a reverse mortgage. And it was awful. It was so awful. I heard her at and it was not because she didn't know her stuff, because she did. She was sharp. I heard her at a boot camp with Darren LaCroix and Patricia Fripp. She was the only one in the boot camp. They actually cut her off and said, thank you very much, have a seat. Okay? And this is, I think it nice, it's really nice, but this is what they told her. Go home and ask yourself, who is it typically who is in my audience? In her case, it was older people, adult children of older people, and widows and widowers. And they said, if those are your typical clients, go through your client files and find stories of people, find people that you have helped that has worked out really well for, or on the other hand, people who really should have gotten a reverse mortgage and they didn't, but people who would be similar and tell their stories. She went home, rewrote it, and the next day she got up, and you would not have believed the transformation. There was this grandma, she was a widow. All she wanted to do was go across country and see her grandkids, but she didn't know how she could afford it. There were other things that she wanted to do in her life. She got the reverse mortgage and now she could do it. You know, here were the smiles of her little grandbabies running up to her. And you hear the emotions, and I'm not trying to be manipulative, but I am trying to be honest. And you do want to paint both the downside, so they can see there is a downside here of not doing it, and the dream. Paint the nightmare, paint the dream, but use the stories from the client files that you've done. if we were gonna do it for Toastmasters, I would probably take the example of some Toastmaster who just was so scared when they first started, they almost fainted giving their icebreaker, and now, and tell their story of how they got up here. Okay, so you're using the story, in this case, to sell a service. Let's go to, I'm gonna go to the next one, and then I'll give you a minute to do both of these together. A product, you could use, if you had a product to sell, maybe it's blinds, maybe it is an alarm system, maybe it's Wild Goose Coffee. You're gonna hear more about Wild Goose Coffee in a few minutes. But you need to sell this idea. I have a very lovely Mary Kay lady, her name is Kara, and she comes over periodically and sells me blush and eyeshadow. And so I had all of these scrambling around in my little compact case, and she said, you know what you need? You need a compact to hold all these. And I said, well, how much have I spent so far? She'd tell me, and I'd say, maybe next time I'll do it. And so that went on for probably over a year. And then in February 2012, I got her monthly email. And I'm gonna just read it to you at the beginning because she starts with a story. I sat across the table from her, listening to her story. She spoke so matter-of-factly, as if she was reading the newspaper about tragedies in someone else's life. But the events she described were as real to her as the table at which we sat chatting. He would hit me, pregnant. Not a day went by when he didn't hit me. Sometimes he would lock me in the bathroom. For hours, I was pregnant, stuck in the bathroom with no food. She goes in, and you can hear the emotions in that. Do you kind of get some pictures in your brain as I do that? And so she goes on, and she says, for the month of February, if you buy a compact, I'm going to donate all the proceeds to a shelter for abused women. What do you think happened?
You bought a compact?
There it is. Okay, but she sold me the product. So I want you to take 1 minute and go back to both the service and the product and ask yourself, what is it, what service do I sell? What product do I sell? And if a story pops into your mind, just jot a few words to remember what that is when you come back to it. Okay, take 30 seconds or a minute. In all of the examples I've already given you, and in the ones we're about to go to, there's something that stories do, and that is that they create a picture in your mind. And if you have the picture in your mind, you are more likely to remember. I want to give you just an example here. Yesterday I sat down across the table from my friend Jim. Did a picture come into your mind? Raise your hand if it did. Okay. Sarah, what did Jim look like?
Oh, he was.
No, I'm sorry. How old was Jim?
Oh, he was in his 40s.
Okay.
I think.
Julie, how old was Jim?
Jim's right here was about 45, 50.
Okay. Wendy, did you have your hand up?
I always have a Jim in my mind.
Okay.
And I was actually picturing Jim Scribner, who's 70-ish.
Okay.
A youthful 70.
A youthful self.
Oh,
Okay.
I say it correct.
And we're going to come back to that also. Okay. What was Jim wearing, Sarah?
A casual shirt with a collar and casual pants.
Okay. And because you both have the same Jim, I'm going to go to somebody else. Who else have their hand up? Just somebody else to tell me what their gym was wearing in your own mind. You wanna say what your gym was wearing?
Me?
Okay,
Oh,
good.
I didn't know
Yes.
who you're looking at.
Okay.
My suit?
A suit.
Wearing a suit.
Okay, Wendy, what was your gym wearing?
Oh, casual, like, possibly clothes you could walk in at the same time that you could fire out a memo.
Okay, okay, very specific. Sarah, what was the table like?
It was round.
Okay, Wendy, what was the table like?
Hadn't thought about the table.
Okay, what was the table like?
Like a square.
A square, okay.
I
Here's
didn't
my
think
point.
about any of those things, until you asked.
Okay,
None.
but was it there?
No.
Did you didn't, okay, so you didn't
Yeah, I
have a
just
picture.
introduced Jim.
Are you an engineer?
Uh-huh.
No, oh. Okay, we're gonna give you the remote for You know, actually, the most fun class I taught last year was for engineers. We'll talk later.
I was easy.
Okay, but the point is here, each person had a different picture in their mind if they had a picture. And that doesn't even matter. All that matters is that there was a picture. And if that picture is in your mind, you're gonna start remembering things. Here's the other point. Both Wendy and Julie know a Jim. His name is Jim Scribner, he's in Toastmasters and he's about 70 years old. And so if you know a Jim, if you already have some information in your head that you can relate to, anything that you don't know, like me sitting across the table from Jim and talking and chatting with him, you're gonna attach to what you do know. And it's gonna make it much easier for you to communicate and to pass on the new information. Teachers use this one all the time. Okay, I'm gonna speed along. So we're gonna go on to selling yourself. Have you ever thought about selling yourself? When you go for a job interview, that's basically what you're doing. Do we have anybody currently looking for a job? Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna hit this one really fast then. Sometimes people get really scared. Oh my goodness, what are they gonna ask me? And when it comes right down to it, there are only 3 real questions. There are about 100 variations of them. But when you go to a job interview, they want to know, do you have the skills and experience? That's question 1. Number 2, are you really genuinely excited about our company to the point where you have researched it, know something about it, you're not just out looking for any job to pay the rent, you really want this company? And 3, will you be a good fit for this team and this culture within the company that's hiring you? That's what they want to know. If you can attach one of your stories to those 3 things, when they ask you the question, you can probably tweak it enough that you can answer anything that they've asked you. And the story will put a picture in their mind that will make you stand out and be remembered. Okay? So if I am in it, well, I'm going to give you just an example of what happened. This is a true story. I was sitting on an airplane and flying up to Oakland, and there was a young woman sitting in the seat next to me. And after a while, I looked over at her, and she was filling out envelopes. She was addressing them, and they had a Ross department store's logo on it. And I said to her, "Oh, do you work for Ross?" I said, I just taught some classes for Ross." And she said, "Really? What did you teach?" And I said, "Well, you know what? They have a lot." I was at the distribution center in Paris, and they were the ones that contacted me, and they have some managers and supervisors. A lot of kids come there right out of high school, and they get to know the job, and they're really good, so they get promoted to the manager position, or even the supervisor or the manager position, but they have never been told that they're going to have to speak. They have never been prepared for that, and they are terrified. And so I took them, and I held their hand a little bit, and gave them some encouragement, and I gave them some tools, and I gave them some practice. And we had a fabulous, fabulous time doing it. And she said, "Really? Who was the person who was over you doing it?" So I gave her the name, and she said to me, apparently I had the right name. She goes, "I have some people I think I'm going to send to you." And she did. But it was, I helped her to see the situation. She was familiar with that situation, right, of a distribution center. She knew, yes, these are a bunch of young kids, they're eager, but no one told them they're gonna have to stand up in front of a group and speak. Okay, and if they get it wrong or don't communicate well, That could be a serious situation. It's an important message that they have to give every day, okay? Anyway, I did it for the story and sold myself, but who knows when you're gonna go on an interview. I didn't anticipate being on an interview right then, but that was what it was, okay? So sell yourself. Here is a new one. Your company's strategic story. And as I started getting more and more into this, if you're working for a company, or if you don't have a company, just fill in Toastmasters, okay? There is a strategy of how you're gonna function. And the typical way to communicate this is, if you're in the corporate world, is to have a PowerPoint pack, and you send it out to the department managers, and you say, show this to your people, and tell them the company strategy, so it kind of, goes like this. Okay, so headquarters said I was supposed to show you this, so, okay, let's see what we've got. Yeah, okay, yes, this is the company strategy. Not really sure what that one's about. And they're going through, and by the time you get to slide 3, everybody's dying, and thinking where they're gonna go for lunch, and you have actually destroyed anything that you wanted to do. Instead, take those points, take that strategy, and put it into a story. Stories answer the question, why? Stories answer what is the overarching thing that we're looking at, and give some context to plug it into. There was a telecommunications company in Malaysia, and they decided to merge with their, not merge, but cooperate, maybe merge, I don't know, with their competitor. Why would you do that? And they decided to tell the strategic story in the form of a story, and this is what they said. We have been growing really well for a number of years. Everything is expanding. But when we look at the charts, and I might put a chart in here, charts are good sometimes. We have seen that within 2 years, our infrastructure costs are going to outstrip our revenues. And so we have decided to merge with our competitor and share the infrastructure. But we will continue to specialize in the things that we do. Okay, now you probably get it, right? You're like, oh, okay, that's good. And the other thing about the story is that's kind of the spine story, the core. When people understand that, and especially if it can be done well, then they can retell it. Okay, and they start retelling it to others. And when they do that, they start adding their little piece of the story, so it becomes very personal, very exciting. And now you've got a company that is really united, and everybody's telling the same story. That's a good thing. Okay, instead of who knows what the strategy is. And actually, when they asked companies that felt they were successful, they said 80% of our employees don't even know what our strategy is. Well, why have one? The strategy is supposed to help you make the daily decisions, right? If you don't know it, obviously you're not doing that. So they went to the strategic story as a way of telling it. I'm going to give you a strategic story. Another one. There was a man in, I think it was Chicago, and what he saw was, I think this is back like 1920s or so, there were many poor immigrants who were coming in, and they didn't have a way of support. And he thought, if I collect used household goods, things that people don't want anymore, and I bring them back, and these immigrants can refurbish them and just polish them up for resale, and then they sell them, then the price that we get for the goods will pay the wages, and all these immigrants will have something to live on. And the company is Goodwill, and that's how it started. But that's his strategy told in a story. Okay, so I want you to take just a minute, and whatever it is you do, whether it's Toastmasters, whether it's a ministry you're involved in, whether it's your company, what is your strategy? What is the thing that you do? And what story comes into your mind? If you have a minute to go back to the interview question, you can write down a little note there. What is it that sets, what is it that's your story? Where is it your story comes to your mind that would show an interviewer that? questions are, do you have the skills and experience? Are you truly enthusiastic about our company? And would you be a good member for this team? And I fully admit, this is not nearly enough time to get you to do this. I'm hoping it will just get you started so that when you go home, you'll spend a little bit more time on certain areas that are pertinent to you. And with that, I'm gonna move on to brand. Such a buzzword now. What's your brand? You know, how are you branding yourself? And stories will help you do that as well. And when you brand yourself and tell your brand story, you wanna say, what is my value statement? What is the thing that I give to my clients, to my customers? What is it that sets me apart? This is hopefully gonna start calling stories to your mind of people you've dealt with, successes that you've had. What is it that sets me apart? Why do I do what I do? And a lot of times, it will also give the backstory of how did you get into this. It gives context. It gives insight. Sometimes a frank detail, so you get the flavor of it. An unexpected bit of color. And it forces the audience to look anew at something that they thought they already knew. Okay, so when you consider your brand, that's what you want to go get into. And I want to give you just a couple of examples of this. There is a gourmet coffee company out of Redlands, California, and actually it's called Wild Goose Coffee. I heard a yay, something from Redlands. Okay, you've been to Market Night a few years ago and seen Wild Goose Coffee. Does that sound familiar? Okay, but Wild Goose Coffee, this is my son-in-law right here. And in this, he gives the flavor of why they started. And he was actually working for a company called Wheel Fun down at the beach, and they rent like little dune buggies and bikes and that type of thing. And he thought, oh, I'll get my own franchise, I'll work my way up. You know, he's just a young married man at this point. And then the hours got worse and worse, and then finally they told me, yeah, we lied to you at the beginning, it's not gonna get any better. And then he had to work Thanksgiving, and he said goodbye, you know, and he wanted to do something else, but he had to sustain his family. And so, my daughter and grandson. Okay. So he had to sustain his family. So he had teaching credentials, so he went into teaching, but he still wanted to do something else. And he loved coffee. You know why he loved coffee? Because his mom loved coffee. Really good coffee, and they would sit at the kitchen table and enjoy it and talk about the different flavors and everything. But he also wanted to be able to sustain his family, and he also wanted to be able to give back to the community. That was his business model, okay? And so he and his brother, Joe, started Wild Goose Coffee. But see, I'm giving you the flavor of it, and I'm giving you something to buy into, and you can probably, I'm guessing, picture him sitting across the table from his mom drinking coffee, okay? And there are these, I will tell you a little bit more about it later, but you know, you're giving a little bit of the flavor. Let me give you another example. My husband and I have a seminar that we give called The Marriage Dance. The Marriage Dance, where are you back there? Okay. And we have taken the visual, the metaphor of ballroom dance, and said, this is how it's like marriage. How did we get started? People ask me, how did we get started on that? Let me tell you. Bob, my husband, wanted to take ballroom dance lessons. I'm like, woohoo, yes, let's do this immediately. I'd wanted to for forever. So we got out on the dance floor. Bob has never danced before. I at least took ballet and went to, so you know, I can do little Beach Boys, but he had never danced. And so we get out there, we're listening to the instructor, and I could sense that he was struggling with it. And so I thought I would be the good wife, right? And very subtly show him how to do the steps without saying that was what I was doing, but that is what I was doing. And I thought I was being so under the radar on this. And one night, he steps back and he says to me, so, are are you gonna push me around the dance floor again tonight? And I thought, whoa, busted. And then it was like this message that said, you know what? You do the same thing when you're not on the dance floor.
Wow.
And that's how it started. I began listening to what the instructor was saying and going, that's like marriage and that's like marriage. Okay, now let me ask you some questions. Did you get a frank detail? How about some unexpected color? The context of how it started. Did you picture it? Okay, giving some serious nods on that one. Did it force you to look anew at something you thought you knew? In other words, where the husband's sitting there going, my wife does that same thing. And the wife's going, I do that. Okay. So when you tell your backstory in order to brand yourself, that's kind of what you want to bring in so that people get a flavor. How am I different than anybody else teaching a marriage seminar? What is it that sets me apart? And we are really going to have to blaze through here. If Sherelle wants to start passing out the evaluations, I am going to flip straight to the back of your sheet. Oh, you already have them, okay. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to fill those out, and then we're going to go to the story chart up back.
Does anyone need an evaluation? I don't have a pen or a pencil. Does she have a pen?
Also, I'm not sure if the sign-in sheet's left going around. I never got it back here, so.
Yes, thank you.
Who has
Should have
the
the
sign-in
sign-in sheet is going around and that you've signed it. So
Who has it?
Is anyone gonna confess that they have a sign-in sheet? Are you sitting on it? Check your evaluation sheet because it was actually done on the back of an evaluation sheet. So you're always filling out the evaluation on the back of the sign-in sheet.
We signed it.
Yeah, me just look at it back. Oh, there it is. Okay, here. Has anyone missed the sign-in sheet? Thank you.
And Sherelle, we have till noon, right? We have till noon.
Lunch.
Very good. As the remainder of you are finishing up, I'm going to throw in one more bonus one, and this is not on the front of your sheet, but that is testimonials for third-person stories to sell. Okay, in your business or in Toastmasters or whatever it is you're doing, if you can get somebody else to say the good words about you, it is far more convincing than you saying them about yourself. I'm just going to give you an example of that. You might take like a client that you've worked for, again, go through those client files and see what turned out really well. But here's a bad example. If I said to you, we exceeded their expectations with our creativity and speed. Oh, how does that sit with you? We exceeded their expectations with our creativity and speed. Okay? How about this? If you were to call my previous client, she'd tell you, we didn't believe it was possible for a company to come in this fast, have this impact, and not inconvenience our place of business. They exceeded our expectations across the board. Is that more convincing? It's coming from somebody else. I'm not just here patting myself on the back. It's what somebody else said. And again, it's a story. As I say it, you're probably getting your own vision of what it means to not be inconvenienced, of what speed looks like and that type of thing. But I'm telling the story of these people who came in and did an excellent job, but it was coming from somebody else's lips. Okay, so that would be another one, and that's not on your sheet. Now flip it over, and we're gonna show you how to write your own story. There's a man named Donald Miller who has written books like Blue Like Jazz is one that I started reading. But he also does the story branding. And this template is adapted from his, but it is so simple. I'm gonna give you the example. In the second column, you see if one of the stories that you jotted down on the other side would fit exactly in this. Okay? So here's the template. I'm just gonna give you the template first. You have a character, and this is just about any story you think of. Even think of movies that you've seen, books you've read. You have a character, and they have a problem. And they need a guide or a guru, someone who can help them, who gives them a plan and calls them to action. At that point, the main character has to make a decision. And depending on what they decide, it either has a happy ending or a sad ending. Okay, does that pretty much fit a whole lot of stories you know? Let's put an example in it. I'm gonna go back to Wild Goose Coffee. My son-in-law Nate had a problem. He worked for Real Fun, and he had to work Thanksgiving. And he didn't want to always be leaving his family and working on the holidays. So he thought about having his own business. But he didn't only want to line his own pockets. He wanted to give back to the community. So he had a friend, a guide, a guru. His name was John. He was his buddy from high school. And John said to him, he gives him a plan. You know, Nate, you love coffee. That's something that's fair traded. It would help out those farmers. And you could be selling the coffee that you love. So Nate had to make a decision. He had a young family, but he started Wild Goose Coffee. And he worked both jobs, teaching and Wild Goose, until he couldn't do them both anymore. And then he had to make a decision. He quit teaching and made the leap, which will either have a happy ending or a sad ending. At this point, over 500,000 pounds of food has been distributed through food banks to people who are hungry.
Amen.
Okay? So it has a happy ending. But you go through that template. Take about 1 minute. Pick one of the stories that you jotted down on the other side and see if you can fit it in that template. Wild Goose. No. You might be thinking of a very exclusive coffee that is made from, but that's not the name of it. Wild Goose. You know what, there is some symbolism behind it. I'm not sure if I remember the whole thing, but there is some symbolism.
I don't understand the connection to the community.
He takes the proceeds from the coffee. So part of it supports his family, but he takes a significant amount of proceeds and donates it to food banks and other charities. Did I forget to say that? I'm having a really bad habit of forgetting to the main point. So thank you for asking.
We were listening.
Okay, good.
See, that, you did it on purpose. So
Okay. That was it.
That was it. Yes.
Does he tell that story in his shop? He's got a store.
He did, yeah, it is a roastery, and basically he supplies cafes, and he does catering events and that type of thing. But yeah, he's told about radio stations, asked him to come on, and you know, a number of things. The family joke is, I'm trying to get to speak, and you don't even ask, and people are having you on. So anyway, standard jokes like that. He's told me one places. Just about 15 more seconds to jot down. I'm going to have you a closing exercise. really hope you're gonna go home and fill this out some more, think about it, because it is a terrific tool to help you. Would you turn to somebody next to you? And we covered about 6 things that a story will help you sell. I'm sure there are many more. But the first person A says one thing, and then as quickly as possible, person B, you tell them the next thing you can sell without looking. See what they're doing, okay? So turn to your partner, you've got 15 seconds, go. A story can help you sell what? Your turn.
How does this work? I'm out, but.
Did you ready to start? No?
Not really. I was kinda trying to gather it all in.
Well, mine would be first situation I was talking about sex. Basically my story, providing a service to companies and businesses. Sharing the story with the public, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I work for a pharmaceutical company, so kind of the thing that I was talking about is like we have a product that has mostly the respiratory. So kind of
So I told you about the idea, the product, the service, yourself, your strategic story, your brand, and testimonials. The ones that we covered today. I hope that you'll go home and really consider, and when you fill this out, just think, what are my stories that tell people why I do what I do, and let them help you